Hello, hello.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Welcome. It's another day, another week, another Humpday Q&A. Right, tweets are out, people are joining. We've got to get on with the show because we're going to go for about 2 hours. Some of us are going to leave about halfway through. We have guests galore, so I guess we'll jump straight into it. Scott.
All right. Now, Simon's been complaining that this takes too long, and he's asked me to talk like a lawyer. Be nice, respectful. Don't be an idiot. Don't post anything that's adult or any otherwise against common sense. Don't advertise or promote the fact that you need a job. Don't spam the same question over and over. Whenever we see it, you go to the bottom of the list and you stay there. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated. Come on, don't be an idiot. If you get blocked here, we're going to pass your name around like it's a hat and let everybody know what you did. And last, a good time.
Have a good time. We'll mention that if you do post links, we won't get them. So if you want to share some code and ask us to talk about your code, go to gist.github.com and you can post your code there as a Dart file and then send us the hash. That's the bit of the URL, that's the hexadecimal characters, and we can load it from that. So post your hashes if you want us to talk about some code. In the meantime, let's do some introductions. So my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader, CTO of DevAngel London. I do lots of other things in Flutter London community and things in FlutterCon and whatnot. And you can find me on Twitter at DevAngel London. Scott.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am a community leader for Flutter. I'm also a GDG organizer. You can find me on Twitter at ScottStahl2017. I also speak at events such as FlutterCon, which will be coming up in September in New York. Finally, a U.S. event. And the most important thing of all is love my lady and we rescue pit bulls.
And we have a Randall. Randall, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, I'm back again. Yes, I'm Randall Schwartz. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, one of 10 in the US. So it's a very special position. And what that typically means is I spend a lot of my time answering questions on Stack Overflow, Slack, Discord, Reddit, wherever I can find questions, I answer questions. And for this show, I'm the question magician, which means that I am watching the chat for you to have messages that have Q colon in front of them. Once you flag it like that, then I will put it into our queue. Oh, there's the dad joke for the week. And make sure that we see that. So if you don't put Q in front of it, we think it's just you chatting amongst each other because sometimes you answer each other's questions. So if you don't flag it with Q, we probably won't be getting to you. Also, do not repeat your question. If you repeat your question, your previous ask of it gets pulled out of the queue, so you lose your place in line. Don't do that.
So, who else do we have? Danielle, welcome to the stage.
Hey, glad to be here again. And by the way, Randall, I do think people line up for that joke every week. All right.
Anyway. If only, no, it's a stupid joke, but I still do it. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, hey everybody, I'm Danielle Cox. I lead a small team of Flutter engineers. We for a company called Ardley. We're a startup and we're kind of in the mortgage space. And our app actually runs on the web, which is a little bit different for a lot of Flutter things. And I am probably most proud, though, of being one of the organizers of a group called the Flutteristas. So if you happen to be female or non-binary and you don't know about us yet, hit me up on Twitter or wherever, and I'll be happy to get you hooked up and get you involved.
And who else do we have? John, welcome to the stage.
Hey, glad to be back. It's been a few weeks. Good to see everybody. So these days I manage the Flutter Medium. I sit around in Discord and other places like Randall answering questions and try and do whatever I can as I have time in between all my other stuff. But I think we usually at this point also like to tell everybody that none of us are Google employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody.
However, I think this week we have an exception.
Nobody on the screen right now works for Google.
As I said, I think this week we have an exception, though, right?
We have an exception. Welcome, Craig.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm happy to be here. Good to see you all.
Is with Google.
Do you want to do a brief introduction, Craig, just in case no one knows who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Craig LeBenz. Obviously, I work on the Firebase team. No, I'm just wearing a legacy Firebase shirt today. But yeah, I'm on the developer relations team for Flutter. So you might see me darkening your doorway at various events or elsewhere on YouTube. But yeah, I'm excited to be here on the best place on the internet, at least on YouTube.
Well, do you mean
so you mean it's better than the Flutter channel?
I think of a live place, yeah, a live place to go.
There you go.
Or
how's the live show going, Craig? Are you beyond doing stuff tomorrow? Is it Thursdays normally?
It will be Thursday tomorrow. That's how Wednesdays work. And yeah, no, I've got a great guest lined up. I haven't yet posted the stream because I got distracted yesterday when I was making the thumbnail, but I need to do that right after this. Tomorrow's stream should be good.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, Craig, you've had a number of shows on the Flutter channel before, but it's currently Observable Flutter is your current show, right?
Correct. Yeah. But not here to focus on that. We're here to focus on Humpday Q&A.
Well, I'm just wondering, is Netflix running it because things keep getting canceled?
Too soon.
And I'm stepping out. I'm going behind the scenes to focus more on the questions and also to leave more room on the screen for the rest of y'all. So I'll be back in an hour when a few of you disappear. So
see that.
Craig, one other quick question: is the shirt in memory of Puff's service?
That may have factored into why I wore it this morning. So for anyone who doesn't know, there was a person who worked on Flutter or on Firebase for 9 years at Google. Just the highest charisma, highest energy person you could ever imagine if you haven't met them ever. Name is Puff, and they recently left Google to work on Flutter Flow. So not.
Oh, that's where. Because he hadn't said it last time I checked.
Oh, I hope I didn't spoil it. Well, his first day was Monday, so I don't think it's a secret anymore. But yeah, so actually, in a way, kind of almost coming closer to Flutter. Firebase was already pretty close to Flutter, so hard to get.
Puff has always been like an insider with the Flutter community from the very beginning. He's the one who helped us all figure out how to create the Firebase plugins to work with Flutter. He did a whole bunch, I mean, not alone, of course, but he spearheaded a lot of that. He hung out with us at a lot of conferences. We all worked together, and it's really cool to see him come even deeper into the world of Flutter now.
Yeah, he's definitely been a friend of the pod, as the kids say.
Well, and I am wearing a shirt that's also, Firebase.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, there you
F3.
go. Yep.
F3, yeah.
And Simon's got the plushie.
All right, I got to go get my shirt.
Somewhere.
But anyway.
I lied.
There you go.
I think I've got a pin somewhere.
Now, John is still ahead of all of us with the light.
Yes.
But speaking quick about observable Flutter, I just wanted to kind of say that I spent the weekend with my nephew went to a volleyball camp, so I got to spend some time flying there and back with him, and extra time in Cleveland because Delta. And anyway, we've decided we're going to work on a game together, and we're going to use Flame, and so we're starting with the stuff that you were doing on your observable Flutter show.
Well, I hope it doesn't lull you right to sleep.
Well,
that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you. On behalf of all of us, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, very, very happy to help illuminate how things work by not knowing how they work while the camera is running.
Wait, are we back to doing the boring show?
It's kind of the successor to it, but anyway,
yeah.
All righty.
Nice.
A couple of
What we're
interesting.
starting to talk to backstage, we want to bring up.
What was that?
We were starting a conversation backstage. Should we have that now for real?
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It's kind of
so
an
long we
echo
forgot
thing.
all about it. Remember before we started the show, we started talking about one of the comments in the chat And
Oh, yes.
we decided we should talk about it live.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Project IDX. Tried it out in a public library, Callan did, and this is huge, at least in parts of America where there are a lot of children in inner cities who don't have access to computers. Unfortunately, if they do try to get them, they often get stolen. Even if the schools give them to the kids. So public libraries are a big thing where kids can access computers, and now they can access a free IDE. So that's awesome for helping them to learn.
Well,
Callan,
and-
I screen capped your message on the thing right now to share with people later. So that's awesome feedback. And just as Scott was saying, it's a huge part of the use case is to lower the barrier of entry to Flutter and other technologies,
Yep.
of course, for everyone. Very cool.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the recommendation a few weeks ago was probably when Randall was talking about teaching a like at one of his at one of the local meetups there, going through the first code lab for Flutter using this. And I'm doing that actually tomorrow night in Atlanta. Looking forward to also using Project IDX for that. So yeah, it's great for that kind of a thing too, where I can say, yeah, come on, I'll teach you some Flutter. You don't have to install anything.
Yep.
And if they
And
love it,
my-
they can get it installed.
My question on this is it what I think everything is server side? So even the least powered Chromebook that can just barely run a web browser?
I can have hands up and say, yes, it does, because we used it at FlutterCon to do the competitions on the front of the desk. We had 3 Chromebooks, and people would have to code we put a video up on the screen about something they had to produce, and they had to, the one that coded it closest, fastest, won a dash. And we just had 3 Chromebooks running Project IDX, basically.
And just to finish the story that Danielle was referring to, so I had signed up to do a local presentation at my local GDG in Portland, and we had in the instructions, go do the setup from here to make sure that you have Flutter installed, because we want to make sure everybody has that ready in before we're actually starting the class. And the day before that class happened, IDX came out into public beta, and I went, does that mean it's available to everybody? And I heard, oh yeah, it definitely is available to everybody. And I went, oh my goodness. So then we quickly changed the instructions on the website. We said, and you'll need to have a Gmail account. That's all you need. You just need a Gmail account so you can log in to IDX and make your Flutter project. And we had people productive 5 minutes into the program. This is like a never before in any workshop I've taught on Flutter, where people are spending the first 45 minutes just trying to get things set up. So this is definitely a game changer. I'm really happy that Google has invested time and energy into making this project work. And the fact that there's a little Linux instance running behind the scenes, so you can, talk to it and launch other things, launch node instances and talk to that from your front end. It's really, really a super setup.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank
so
you, Google,
awesome
for that.
because
Yes.
no one ever installs when you go. I've done several workshops. You can beat on people for a month ahead of time. Their own organizers can say, you need to. 60% of the people show up expecting to install that day and expecting you to stop the workshop to help them. And a lot of times you just have to say, no, you were supposed to do this ahead of time. It's not fair to everybody else.
Yeah.
So this really solves that problem.
So thank you. You can accept on behalf of Google, Craig. Thank you for Project IDX. And
where's the trophy? Where's the trophy?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my agent. I haven't lifted a finger to make IDX happen, so I will forward all of this love along to those that have.
Nice. So you're gonna, it's about Flutter and forwarding. So
yeah,
bad pun. I want to get one quick question out of the way. It's out of order. A question about GetX. GetX is not Flutter. Okay, GetX has deviated so much. It's not even Flutter anymore. We can't help you with it. Sorry.
We won't answer any questions about it or even talk it. We're not even going to say the words anymore this stream. That's how strong
Yeah,
we
Scott
feel about
already
this.
violated the protocol by saying the name.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's important to say. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got all their own stuff. I mean, let's face it. Get Material app right there. You've deviated from the entire.
That's it. No, that's it. There's no more talking about it. We explained it in previous shows. That's it. No more. No more screen time. That's it.
All right. Moving on. Any tips or guidelines for versioning? Do CI/CD tools like CodeMagic really do it all for you? It looks like there are many places to increment versions, leaving room for inconsistency. I will definitely say that they don't. Nobody's going to do it all for you because nobody knows when you're going to move from alpha to beta, and nobody's going to know when you're going to move from beta to production, and you have to manually make those changes.
Okay, so let me. There's going to be no Okay, hang on. I need to process the point here. Each different platform you deploy to does things differently, right? So there needs to be a consistent way of doing that. Flutter helps with that in that regard, right? However, if you end up with a CI/CD pipeline, it needs to maybe auto version. It needs to do things. It's also up to your choice. You might have different versions for iOS and Android. Like there's so many varieties and ways of doing this. It's down to you. It can automate the entire process, right? You can just say each time I build a CI/CD, it increments my version number and it deploys it to the app stores in their beta channels. Boom. That's like the best scenario. That's the easiest to go with. Something like CodeMagic is just point and click, follow the guides, do what they say, and it works, right? However, if you inherit an existing project or you're migrating an existing project to Flutter, something you've already got version numbers being used, you've got versioning scheme, you've already got build numbers, and you have to match that scheme or match the behavior. There also might be the ways the business operates around the versioning as well, which also come into play. So there's never one solution that fits all, right? I think the key here is understanding where you increment and how you can increment. So let me just be clear that when you make a build, especially from your debug machine, it will use the version code from the pub/spec YAML file, right? So that's the version name, the plus symbol followed by the build number, right? That's the format. So it's version name plus version code, right?
Build number.
Now you can override that with the Flutter build command, has -- build number -- build version, I think it is, and those can override that each time you build, and that's how in a CI/CD pipeline you can override those numbers. But this means that when you build locally, it's different from the one that's in your pipeline. So then you might need to think about, okay, do you want to make your pipeline after a successful build, push the version of it built back into the code base on your main branch, for example, your develop branch or something, so that you can have a sort of a flowing development thing where you're actually always using the same versions. But yeah, there's no magical solution to this, but at least you know that that's where you should be controlling version. If you change those versions and it doesn't change the one that's inside the app info on Android or the app information on iOS, that's because you altered the Android iOS build files. So in like the Gradle files, you can change how that version gets built, and inside the iOS info plist file, you can change what variable it uses for that. So the best way to reset that is make sure your code's checked in, delete the Android and iOS folders, and do flutter create dot, and it'll rebuild the Android and iOS folders, and it'll give you the configuration back, and then you can then just choose inside your Git tool about what files you keep and what files you don't. It can be complicated, but at least you get back your configuration.
Yeah, because if you made any other changes to your info plist or pod file or anything like that.
But to be honest, I think this is a good aspect of you should not be putting at least minimum manual changes to your Android code, and maybe even better. So this is something I've actually been doing for a while. Is you have a package that alongside your app that is your own package, a local package that has a Android folder and iOS folder that can have a manifest, can have activities, can have all your customizations in there. It gets merged together when it gets built, right? So you can actually have your own app channels and everything else alongside your project, so that altering your current one doesn't make a difference.
Leave it to Simon to move the Android and iOS folder completely out of the project and import it.
Still have in the project, but I'm saying the base you can make alternatives that stick around that's separate to your project. It's another option.
Only Simon.
Now, the one point. The one point I kind of want to make on that is we do it like you said, where the CI/CD automatically bumps the version for our. It's a web app, but it keeps track of everything for caching and all that kind of stuff. For that's great, but that's not like a very human readable tying it to like our kind of release stuff. So we also go ahead and create like a we create a release that has a proper human readable label, and we do that mainly when we go to prod. Not for all the other builds, but when we go to prod, we actually do that, and that's.
So, normally, just for the reader, for the questioner, sorry. Normally your version numbers you have to increment. So let me be clear about some points. Your version number always has to increment. It cannot go backwards. And once you release it to the store, you cannot release anything with a lower version code. You can't go backwards on a release, right? So you can actually upload a new build, and people will get that maybe instead of another one. You can do some weird, funky things, but point here is once an app is installed to one version code, it never goes slower, right? You can never install a new version that's lower than the current one. So it's always moving forwards. So if you need to like revert changes, essentially what you're doing, or roll back, you're essentially rolling back is releasing again with a new version that is the same code as the previous version, right? Apart from the version number, essentially. So to just be clear that it's complicated.
Yeah, I've done some work with the Clover app market. Clover is a point of sale. It's Android-ish based.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
I've done some work with them, and that's actually what they recommend. Is they recommend you go ahead and create your new version and go ahead and create your rollback, because they have to approve it before you can release it. And so they'll go ahead and approve both, so in case you have to roll back, it's available there. Because otherwise you can't do it. Yeah. In cases like that. So depending on where what kind of app store you're in, you can have issues like that even.
Right, we need to get to questions
here.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to be cutting questions in about 5 minutes because we do want to be able to get to some live coding. We have 8 in the queue right now, which is typically for us a little over 30 minutes, which is exactly what we have.
You got 5 minutes to get your questions in now, and then
Here's one I want to take a stab at, okay, because it has to do with something I was taught long ago. I don't understand the point of the lint rule, prefer final parameters. Why would there be a need to add final for function parameters? And I believe what you're talking about is when you have often name parameters or unnamed parameters, I take it, name parameters where everything is final. The thing is, I was taught 20 years ago, okay, never directly change your input values.
Yeah.
Never. If you want to manipulate them, you create a new local variable within the scope and pass that value to it, and then manipulate your local variable. But you never, ever, ever make changes to the input directly. Anybody else?
So, go on. Do you add to that, Craig?
Yeah. Agree.
I mean, I think
Scott said. I mean, that, and a lot of that comes from for some of us that are old enough, the C, C++, when you're talking about pointers and references and all that sort of stuff. And yep.
So I was going to say there's actually, I was just looking for it. There's actually another. So I prefer. I actually hate this lint check personally. I think it's kind of pointless to put final on every parameter, right? I mean, there's one thing that says like it ensures that you cannot override them, right? However, it doesn't actually do anything more than that. So people say it kind of optimizes, and the answer is it does give a hint to the compiler to say it's never going to change, and it can guarantee that. However, it also knows that from its context as well. So I'd have to defer to one of the Dart developers, Dart language developers, to actually get the finer details on that point. But there's actually another lint which I'm just trying to find, which it tells you about avoid changing final like variables that are parameters, right? There's actually one for that, and that's preferable to me because it will tell you if you start setting the value of something that's being passed in, which you feel is what you're trying to avoid, not the fact that they're final, right? Like,
yeah, the keyword final on all your parameters does add a lot of noise. And
yeah, exactly.
If you're passing in a data structure that's essentially by reference, right? If you pass in a list, Dart's VM doesn't copy it at runtime, so you could append to the list and really confuse the surrounding code, which is not what you want, which is why you don't want to modify variables. And
You know what this reminds me of? Not manipulating global variables, because if you're passing in a reference to the variable and then you manipulate it by referring to that reference, basically what you're saying is you're manipulating the value that's outside the function.
Yeah.
Right. And now you go back to it from somewhere else and you say, why did it change? Well, because you changed it in that function, but what you changed was the reference to the variable that was outside the function, instead of creating a new copy and manipulating it within the scope of your function.
So this is what I was looking for, the other one. Don't reassign references to parameters of functions and methods. Yeah. So basically this is what we're saying is bad, right? So you don't ever pass in a value and then change its value during the function, right? Because later on in the function, you might assume it's this value that was passed in, but actually got rewritten. And that leads to so many bugs. So you don't do that, right? Making it final also achieves this result. It literally shows an error, but you can also set this lint check as an error inside your lint check. Same here.
Look at these samples. That's not even valid Dart.
What? Which bit? What?
So it says int required. What is that?
Actually, I wonder if that actually would be detected as a keyword violation, or if it actually would just give you a variable name. I wonder. You wouldn't be able to use it, though, would you? No, that would be that's invalid, right?
No, it's not. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be valid Dart.
I know. We know that. We understand required. This is required parameter. This is optional parameter.
Wait a minute. It is
optional 42. Right. It tells you that's an optional parameter inside the braces.
Yes, understand.
Required is outside the braces.
You got that. So Craig, go on.
No, you just get a variable name required. Oh my gosh!
Did you really?
Did you just try it? Did you just try it?
I just tried it.
But can you actually access that variable in the function?
I printed it. Yeah.
I guess you could, because the thing is, the required keyword can only be used in certain places, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it can't be used in place of an identifier on a line. So there's actually a valid Dart. It's bad Dart. It's bad Dart.
Yeah, don't use required as a parameter name.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like dead.
Well, but first off, if you want to use required, make it is required or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Follow those kinds of guidelines. This reminds me of, I don't know. I 20 years ago, I was seeing people in C code start to do, like, instead of saying if foo equal 5, they would say if 5 equal foo, just so that they would get an error if they actually accidentally put in 1 equal something.
Yeah.
It makes things worse. So it's interesting seeing the stuff to try to protect yourself from yourself. Which once again, the linker warning that Simon prefers does the job. And
less noise in the source code, right?
Yeah. And John kind of hinted at it, and Craig definitely said it. But that's the other thing that I get with that is be aware that if you're passing in any kind of a class or something, it's by reference. So if you make changes, those will happen, regardless of whether it's final or not, or you're actually.
And if you're new and only have worked in Dart, what Danielle's referring to is by reference is the class itself never goes into your function. There's just a road sign pointing to it saying, yeah, go work with that one that's outside of the function over there. So I just want to disclose some, I think people are not sure you can do this, but so see, this is called parameter assignments. In your analyzer options, if you add analyzer errors and then put parameter assignments here and then put the word error, like this one here, it will then be a compiler error if you then try to change those parameters, right? And you can do this with any lint checks. You can change lint checks that are warnings or errors to information. You can choose how you handle those lint checks. And that's what this error section of the analyzer does. It's very helpful. So for those that don't know, check it out. I'll put this link in the chat for anyone that wants to go read up the documentation. Quick one on this too is if you get a don't pass context over async gap, well, right. But a quick and easy way around it is look at the function, the async function you're going to, see what it's pulling out of the context, and then go back and just pass that instead of the whole context.
Pull it at the beginning before you call the async and pass as parameters to your async function. Therefore, it's going to have the scope that it needs to work asynchronously rather than trying to fetch it asynchronously, which is where the problem comes in,
Yeah.
because your element or your widget essentially might not be attached to the tree at the time once the async operation finishes.
So,
Or
and
continues.
to simplify that, if you have a car class that you put in your context, don't pass the context to a function and then access the car within it. Just pull the car out and pass the car.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
Moving on. Inside a scrollable page, I have a scrollable table. Once the table reaches the top of the screen, I want the table to be sticky and start scrolling instead of the page. How would you do that? Once again, is this a job for sticky headers? Or
Actually, no. So this is slightly different. And I actually gave the code to the similar thing in last week's, was it last week's Q&A? We talked about this.
We get this question a lot. Yeah.
It might have been the same. Might be the same question. This is slightly different. I do agree this is slightly different, but basically what you're doing is you're trying to make a sliver that is the height of your scrollable table. You don't really want scrollable inside scrollable. It's a really bad idea, right? However, if you do need to do it, you need to look at the cross-parent scrollable widget. In fact, I don't know if Craig has seen, so maybe I have to show Craig how cool this little thing is in a minute. But I think, Craig, it's a widget that needs to go into the framework. That's how important this widget is. So we'll discuss. We'll discuss. However, I'll post a gist link in a second, and you can go check that out, Jobs.
So Simon, I have good news for you about this widget that needs to go into the framework.
Yeah.
Have you heard?
Can I contribute?
Flutter is open source.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So
when am I contributing, guys?
So you can do this thing where you go to github.com/
What is this GitHub? I've heard of this.
Yeah, no, it's a new site. It's a small startup.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'll as I said, I think it's again pushing these things into the repo. Like
I'm being snarky here.
No. But it's something that. But it's also like there's this thing, right, where I almost want like. I feel like you want an open forum before you start going down the avenue of. It's something that kind of has come up before. You don't want to go down this avenue of making alterations to the SDK or doing this and going down this avenue and then saying, here's a PR. What you kind of want to do is open up a discussion point around it and then determine what the validity is and if it should be inside the SDK, and then going down the avenue of actually sort of modifying the code and putting it in there, because otherwise the last thing you want is to do all this effort and then be like no, right?
Yeah, because that is a point. I mean, there are people whose job it is to decide whether it goes in or not. So just because you think a change should be made does not mean that it can be made based on the powers that be.
Although now that Hixie's not doing it, who is doing it?
Well, I mean, he was never the sole arbiter of it. And one thing I would say to anyone who has a seemingly good idea, like rejected. One thing the framework team is very judicious around and very conscious of is that even a good idea submitted to the framework now becomes their maintenance burden for all of time. And it's possible that a very good idea should actually still just be a package. I'm making no comment about this particular scrolling widget. But if you have a thing that you're sure is a great idea and you open a discussion, which Simon is 100% correct, that is the place to start, not a PR. And you make a pitch and it's well received, but no, I don't think we should add that to the framework. That doesn't mean your idea is bad. It might just mean the framework doesn't want to maintain it for the rest of time.
Yeah, and there's a sense of bloating the framework with things that really don't belong there, because the framework is supposed to be for things that are essentially common to all apps, right? It's supposed to be for things like sized boxes and containers and images. It's not supposed to be for things like camera support or audio or sensors. And in this case, I think the widget sounds like it would be something good for the framework. But then again, even if not, it could easily be a package.
Well, if you really want to get, if you read like the Dart people's, how guarded they are on making changes to their, to the Dart language, it's also because taking stuff away is practically impossible.
Yeah.
Which is what Craig's talking about with that's the reason why it has to be, supported forever, is because you can't really take it away. And Flutter is kind of the same way at that point. You don't want to have like deprecating this whole area that, with whatever. Again, no commentary on Simon's widget.
Okay, clock is ticking. We have more questions than we had before and less time.
Go.
On the official Dart website, it shows that an abstract final class cannot be constructed, extended, implemented, mixed in, sold, and if all of these things are marked as no, what is the use of an abstract final class? It does not say that it can't be rented. No. Okay, somebody.
So
it really can't be implemented. I thought an abstract final class was functionally an interface. Is this right?
I was
It's supposed to be an interface, basically. Yeah.
I think it can't be implemented by someone outside the package, right?
Yeah. So there's an interesting thing here that happens, and that some of these things affect inside the library, like scope of library versus outside the scope of library, right? In library is not a thing, but you know what I mean, like not anymore. Really.
But this is saying the official Dart website.
Right. Okay. But if you take a look at it, an abstract class obviously can't be constructed, right?
Right.
Because it has to have something going on it. A final class cannot be, extended, etc. Any of the variations on it outside of the library. So an abstract final is useful because I can still use it inside my library to extend it, but outside the library, it can't. It can't be constructed because it's abstract, and it can't be extended because it's final.
It's package private, is what it is.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's not. I don't think it's caveated on the library, right? On what's contained within the package, right?
Yeah.
So that might be a documentation problem.
Okay.
It doesn't explicitly say that.
But yeah, it reminds me very much of package private in Android. All right.
Yeah, the combination of abstract and final isn't addressed specifically on the class modifiers page. So it's possible that this particular combination of modifiers isn't very useful, but I think Danielle is largely on target there.
That's what I aim for, is to largely be on target.
Simon,
stay on target. Stay on target. Cool. Let's move on to the next question, I guess.
Yes.
Oh. Amy, was that about my voice?
Yeah,
you're
pretty echoey.
You're definitely overdriving.
Am I? Oh.
Yeah. It's got that fuzziness.
I'm fuzzy. I'm fuzzy by nature.
Yeah, you should meet him in person, folks. He needs a comb for his back. I mean, no, kidding.
Well, that sounds terrible. Ugh.
What would be the best way to create a circular scrollable list items on a circumference of a circle? What widgets to start with? I'm thinking we need a clarification on this.
Definitely.
A scrollable list typically is lazy loading and does not show all of the items at the same time. So my question is, are you trying to do just a curved portion of the list where some of it goes off screen and that would allow the list to keep loading thousands of items and not repeat? Or are you trying to show the entire list on a wheel, in which case, how would you add anything once the wheel is full?
Well, or anything more than a handful of items, because you're not going to fit a whole lot more than that.
Yeah,
I'm thinking this
curved portion.
Okay, curved portion. Yep. Okay, no, that's actually a cool idea. I know how to do this in Photoshop, but
well, I think the short answer.
Are you gonna? Okay, go ahead.
Well, if someone has a concrete idea, then please take it. I think the short answer is some trigonometry, which I'm very bad at, so I can only. That's the end of my help there. But if you use a transform widget to kind of place some things, it would be quite tricky. I'm trying to think. You'd have to like animate it across a path. This would be a tricky UI to put together for sure.
Part of it's
How
going
is
to
my
be
own-
whether you want to curve the widgets themselves, to modify the widgets themselves, or you just want to place them in the right spot. If you just want to place them in the right spot, it's just trig again.
Sorry,
You did a carousel that was on a circle that had like 3D depth to it.
First of all, just how's my audio? Is that okay?
It's all right. You're
That's
echoing
good.
a
Better.
little bit still.
Echoing. Where am I echoing from?
Put a carpet on the wall. But yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway, all right, let's move on. Go on.
People have done image carousels like this, and they can have an unlimited number of images rolling in.
Simon's done one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you want, we'll code this in a minute. How's that? There you go.
That sounds like a great example for that.
Yep.
Love it.
All right. Moving on. Go router versus auto route. I don't know.
Whichever one you prefer.
So I'm out of it.
Amy, where'd that question go? No, leave it on there.
I've never used
I'll
auto
go
route
hunt
though.
it down. You go answer this one.
Yeah, based on the people involved in creating Go Router, I like Go Router, but I've never used auto route, so that's not a real strong recommendation.
Yeah, I know a lot of people really do love auto route, and I think if you've had a positive experience with it, then you should definitely use it. I personally use Go Router mostly, if for no other reason than to just dog food the routing solution that the framework intends to make strong enough to handle almost every use case. And I do say almost every use case, but yeah, I don't think I have a strong opinion here either. I know a lot of folks who really love auto route, but Go Router is the official recommendation.
I mean, I know that's the recommendation and everything, but an awful lot of apps only have less than 10 screens. And I don't know. I mean, unless you're deep linking, this sounds like overkill. If you've only got 10 screens.
I mean, it's a pretty straightforward interface, Go Router. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just you have to set up your routes and everything. Whereas for something that small, I just throw in Navigator 1 and keep going.
Yeah.
Now, if it was bigger, yeah. All right. This one is a multi-parter.
Just hammer and navigate to every single time you need to do it. It's fine. It's easy. Come on.
All right. Who's been passing Simon pints under the table? All right. Here's a two-parter. I've been watching several open source repos to learn about the architecture, I guess, for my apps using Riverpod. Sometimes I need advice in niche decisions that are not covered in open source repos or on the internet. How can I learn to deal with these situations or track that I'm doing the right thing? Well, don't ask Stack Overflow if you want to make sure you're getting the right thing.
So
you're actually on the right track.
Yeah, there are places though that they can come ask questions, right? So, Randall and I hang out in Discord. There's actually a Riverpod Discord server. There's the Flutter Dev server where we sit. There's a few others beyond Stack Overflow that's more interactive, versus post your question, wait for a response.
Flutter Community Slack, 26,000 members.
Exactly. So there's some more live-ish places that you can ask the question if you need, more feedback and also more detail. Like I said, in the case of Riverpod, you can go right to that server and find people that are answering Riverpod questions all the time.
That's where you can find the Slack and the Discord. And not the Medium, because they have their own Medium.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I recommend looking at other people's code is a great way to hopefully figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Make sure the person whose code you're looking at has a really good reputation as a good coder. There are some places you don't want to look. Just saying.
You don't want to go on Observable Flutter and look at any of those repos.
I was thinking of a get thing, but whatever. All right.
Yeah.
Wasm or Jasper? Jasper what was the new announcement about Jasper?
Why not both?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not They're not in
exclusive.
competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just something about Jasper hooking up with somebody else for something. I think it might have been Dart Flutter.
Stellarpod and Jasper.
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I think this question suggests maybe a misunderstanding of one or both of these. So should we just talk a little bit about WASM and Jasper?
Sure.
yeah.
Anyone want to take either?
I'll take WASM. Who wants to take Jasper? There you go. or you do vice versa. I don't mind. So when it comes to WASM is just like at the moment, all web browsers include JavaScript, right? That is the way that you would be coding web pages for a very long time. But in fact, some browsers, ones written by companies called Microsoft, for example, at the very beginning, actually offered Visual Basic scripts as a way of doing web pages, because the scripting language that you would actually write in is not specific to support what you needed. However, it was only supported by Explorer. JavaScript became the widely supported language, and that became the de facto standard for a very long time. Dart tried to go into that at some point in the mix, didn't make it headway into it at the time. However, WASM is an interesting one. So WASM is a lower level abstraction over programming concepts, the same as that's where the term assembly comes from. But having the browser implement that means that any language can effectively on top be written and then compiled to WASM, and WASM runs in the browser. This opens up the browser market wider, and the benefits of this is that because it doesn't have to be interpreted by the browser, because it's very much a one-to-one between what the action is that is required versus what the actual browser does, versus a higher level language like JavaScript or Dart or so on, it means you can actually operate quicker to a certain degree. Right, so you actually get higher performing browser pages, better performance on the CPU and people's machines, and then any language can be used. This is kind of win-win-win. This is pushing browsers in the right direction. So when it comes to Flutter and Dart specifically, this means that we can reap the benefits of having the performance aspect, getting better web pages, and equally all those web pages can be written in Dart now, which is also what we want. I think that kind of covers it. WASM.
Yep.
Anyone want to cover Jasper a bit?
So I think Jasper, it's been a while since I've read about the package, but I read the README and a lot of the documentation over a year ago. And my memory of it is that it's a variant. It's like not the element tree and the render tree under the hood, but it's things that look like Flutter widgets and then ultimately cache out into actual DOM elements. So you produce real HTML as opposed to a canvas into which Flutter draws, and that again gives you a bit more of a conventional web architecture, and then your Flutter experience in the browser will feel more like non-Flutter websites. And so of course those two things can just go together, which is why I was thinking we should talk about both of them. You could compile your Flutter app which uses Jasper to WASM.
You've woken a Randall. Go on, Randall.
Which by the way, is funny.
I agree with
Riverpod didn't come on.
It was a Riverpod, but I'm also a big Jasper fan now. And one of the key things about Jasper is that it's just Dart. It's not Flutter. You can embed a Flutter application as part of a Jasper site, but you don't have to involve Flutter at all if you're not doing that. One of the key things is that it works even with packages like Riverpod. So it can work out of the box with Riverpod and a few other packages like that. And now that it works with ServerPod, it's even more interesting as well. But one of the most important parts about it is that it can operate in any of three modes. Either a static website where everything is being done by the browser as JavaScript. It can run as everything server-side rendered for perfect SEO and everything like that. But it can also operate in the middle mode, which is that there are proxy objects that run on the browser that then act on the server. Very cool stuff. I think the fact that all three of those modes are supported out of the box by Jasper, and Jasper is not even 1.0 yet. It's pretty amazing what's being done there. So I had to come on and say that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One thing I would highlight there is the value in creating packages that don't needlessly depend on Flutter if you don't actually use Flutter, because Riverpod went through a lot of effort to make sure it doesn't depend on Flutter and have a separate package where there's all the widgets that would depend on Flutter. Had that not happened, you couldn't use Jasper with Riverpod. So just a cool thing for a package to do. And if you're writing a package, a good thing to think about.
Yeah, it's quite popular in the ecosystem right now to actually have your Dart specific stuff, your Flutter specific stuff separate to the rest of your Dart code for your package. And then that way it works better in terms of cross-platform or other things. Like you can then use your models and information on the server side or in other environments which don't run Flutter, right? Anyway, cool. All right, what's the next question?
I like the next one.
To initialize your app, connect to database, pre-cache images, retrieve user, do you guys use a defer first frame? Seems great to avoid loading widget after a splash screen. Oh, have you watched my my talk at FlutterCon mine
this year I mentioned it. Mine this year I mentioned it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do it. There you go. So I think the way I actually use the first frame is actually just to load the splash screen. So I just ensure that images and other things that might delay the splash screen loading is what you defer on. Then you're loading your splash screen with the Flutter because you can have animations and other nice things, and then you're off to the races, right? You can do whatever you need to do from there.
Yeah. Then once you're done, then move to your first page.
Yeah. But the defer first frame is a very much a missing thing that people don't know about inside the Flutter architecture ecosystem. It's not really documented enough in terms of the Flutter website as well. But for those that don't know, they can go look at my talk or Danielle's talk.
Cool.
All right, next. You're muted, Scott, if you're talking to us. Okay. Carry on. Okay, we carry on. Nelson says, how is the progress of shaders and 3D rendering in Flutter? I tried to do some deep testing on the engine, but it would be a lot of work, so I'm awaiting news about that. Deep testing on the engine. I guess you mean with regards to shaders and 3D rendering. I mean, Craig, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, so it's a kind of best effort project that isn't really the main thrust of Flutter's focus right now. Flutter's the folks that are working on graphics in the engine team are primarily trying to get Impeller rolled out to Android as well, which is near completion, and then maybe desktop and other build targets. But it's already pretty mature on iOS. It's arriving on Android. That's really the top priority. There are some folks on that team who just happen to be graphics junkies. And, well, of course, because they're making a new 2D rendering engine, but also are 3D graphics junkies. And now we're really going to enter hand-waving territory because I am not a graphics person. But they kind of detected whatever, like, oh, we can expose these lower level APIs that were not exposed before, and they will allow folks to create their own 3D renderers. And then there is one that works, and that's the little dash running around the blue island collecting coins demo that you may have seen. That is one such 3D renderer, but that's not really going to be a heavily supported thing. It's not really intended to be what we would all use if you want to make a 3D game with Flutter. That is basically a tech demo. And the idea is that with these lower level APIs exposed from Impeller, adventurous folks in the community will be able to stitch together their own 3D renderers, and hopefully anyone interested will come together and work on just a few as opposed to having 88 incomplete ones. But
so Simon's going to do it by himself.
He's already been starting on it.
Basically the roadmap, so to speak, for 3D. So that's the inside perspective from a non-graphics person. Simon, do you have external graphics person perspectives to add?
No, I think you kind of covered it. I will mention that the work is being done in open source, so you can go check out the repo. I posted a link in the chat, and I'll just present this on screen. This is the official documentation around Flutter GPU right now, which is the name. Originally, it's called Dart. If you ever see Dart GPU, that's what it was referred to previously, Dart. But this is the documentation about how it works, and you can. I think there's a test flag if you use a particular engine version, build the engine yourself, then you can actually try it out right now. I feel like there's some other documentation around here, some which I'm not going to find. No, Mark, I was pointing to the wrong place. Oh, there, design doc. That was it. If it loads, there you go. So, so there, Flutter package GPU, and this actually has the history, and also this is essentially akin to what we were just talking about, right? So how Flutter currently works, and this was the scene API. This is what Craig was just talking about, which is the way it was or has been working in the past. And then, in essence, you can go read this up yourself. It's all linked. But how the idea is that we're exposing, I said we, or the project will be exposing the capabilities and the hardware, the lower level APIs. So examples like this, creating a pipeline, applying your shaders, your blend options, and everything else, the lower level GPU API. And then that can then be put into anywhere inside a canvas. Which I think there's an example further down here. You create a render command, and then at some point in the future, you can then do canvas.draw command, which I think is somewhere in here. We have to have a look. But anyway, the point here is being able to essentially take 3D out of the pipeline. So rather than being like a scene API, you can actually then build these things on top. There you go. So here's an example, create a pipeline, GPU command, and then draw command on a canvas. So this might be the way that you then start doing like 3D in terms of when this is done, if it ever gets done, if it ever gets finished, and so on and so forth. Like it's all in the works right now. But as I said, essentially not the priority of the team right this moment. So, cool. Hopefully that kind of helps. Shaders, I saw last week Ralph from the community. Yeah, he did a great little shader example of a glitching effect. And one of the things I was waiting for, I think I picked this up with the engine team back in the day, was that it'd be nice to be able to get a to be able to apply effects inside of the actual widget tree, and that's kind of where shaders come in, right? So you can start, as long as you can like get a surface or work your shader to the context, you then start doing that page color effects and other like interesting three-dimensional effects or color effects and everything inside the widget tree as part of the rendering pipeline, the existing rendering pipeline. That does not involve low-level 3D GPU stuff.
Simon, apparently we need to say goodbye to John.
Oh, bye, John.
Yeah, I got to run to a meeting, so I will see you all later.
That small company you're with has meetings?
Yeah, just a few. It keeps me busy most of the day. Yeah, unfortunately.
Have fun.
All right, see you.
Take care. All right. We've got one more before we get on with the coding. And I have a hard stop myself, but I want to get in on this one. And I believe Craig also has something to say. But why does Flutter lack SEO support? And this is my own opinion. It is free. It is worth what you pay for it. Okay. And your mileage may vary. But two reasons I can think of. One is SEO support is aimed at web, and the SDK itself, as we said earlier, is supposed to contain things only that are common to all. If it's only for web, then maybe it should be a package. And secondly, Flutter is for web apps. It's not for web pages or websites, which means your web app goes in a web page, and the proper place to do your SEO is in the web page, not in the web app.
Right.
And you can build up web pages with Jasper.
Yes. I'm going to disagree slightly here and say that right now, the practical uses for Flutter Web are web apps. I don't know that that's something that we should be saying Flutter Web should only ever be this.
No, correct.
And
No, I'm saying it is.
I think there's a very technical reason here, which is the fact that people like to cheat things like SEO. And so when they go out to try to find it, it requires certain things like at the HTML type level that we're not doing because we're Flutter. And so it's difficult to get SEO in there. Does that sound about right, Craig?
Yeah, you're definitely on the right. The aspect of trust and cheating is a huge part of it. So first of all, there's some experiments going on here. I don't know if they're going to yield anything strong enough to recommend to the whole community, but there are experiments going on. They're slow because the search team gets mad at us if we even ask the simplest question about the public's Google search index or a dashboard that everyone else uses as well. We have literally no inside info about how SEO page ranking works at all, and are just as confused as everyone else. But we're still running these experiments. Now, the trust issue is a big one, and it's definitely relevant here. So the way SEO would conceptually work with Flutter is that your Flutter app would turn on accessibility, and that emits a semantics tree that is consumable by the browser for screen readers and whatnot, and also can satisfy an SEO crawler's ability to understand a page and surface details in search results. So conceptually, that's how you bridge that gap. And then the issue of trust does enter into this. So I remember when I was a web developer back in 2009 and 10, yeah, we called it like, what was it? Black hat SEO, I guess, where people would they would render something, they would design their page in such a way that a human being saw one thing, but the bot saw something else. And you could just have a P tag and your CSS jettisons it 10,000 pixels to the left, and it will never render. And the user doesn't know that this particular thing was fed to the bot, but the bot will now maybe direct users to this page where you're doing something scammy because the SEO engine thought you were some upstanding website about this other topic. So this is a huge problem for all search engines across the internet, and Google's been fighting this for 15 plus years. Flutter represents a really interesting version of that problem where we render stuff to a canvas and then separately emit this semantics tree and kind of just say, trust me, they're the same. Mm-hmm. And that is, even as these experiments are promising and are hopefully going to produce something that we can all use, I think there will always be some uncertainty, or potentially Google will just maybe start OCRing all pages, and that's how they'll analyze what's on the screen and how to think about indexing a page. I have no idea if that will ever happen or if it's already happening, but Flutter is in a really interesting place around SEO for all of these reasons. And we're running experiments. I'm definitely sympathetic to why a user would want, you've built your iOS, your Android, your internal web app. And it's like, now I got to replicate my design and everything. And just for my landing pages, it's such a pain. And it would really be nice if I could not just handle 98% of my app with Flutter and have that gangly 2% that I have to maintain separately and mimic my UI with CSS. I just want to do it all with Flutter, and I want that to be indexable. So I'm very sympathetic to that. Mm-hmm. But this is the kind of state philosophically of how search engines work and how crawlers work and how Flutter intersects with that. Hopefully there will be something at some point before too long.
Now, also to expound on that, I used to be in a business where I had to use AdSense an awful lot. I was in a service industry, and to give you an idea, my ads were outperforming Sears at the time. So I kind of figured this out, and people who called me to try to get me to pay them to do SEO, by the time the call was over, were trying to hire me because I couldn't afford to hire anybody. So I had to learn. And there was an update to the crawlers called Panda. And Panda did look for a lot of that black hat stuff and crushed so much of it. So many websites were just annihilated and thrown back to page 100 of the search results because they were cheating. And not doing SEO cheating, but to give you an idea what they do if they find you cheating, JCPenney, the big store that was competing with Sears, got caught with 20,000 fake backlinks. Okay. So what did Google do? There is no JCPenney page ever that will appear on Google searches higher than page 20. So if you want to get a JCPenney ad, you have to go to page 21 of the search results. That's how seriously they take this. And Craig, I believe the search team won't tell you anything about how it works, because if you know how it works, you might be able to figure a way around it.
Yeah.
Well, they don't let us. They won't tell us anything ever. There was like, we didn't know how to use the search console, and it was just like a surprising result. And we asked them like, what does this mean? And they were just like, literally never talk to us again. So we have no idea.
I will say that sorry.
I was gonna say, for the record, if you Google JCPenney, it shows up right at the top talking all about JCPenney.
I mean, back in the day,
is
at
it
the
a paid
time.
ad?
Yeah.
Is it a paid ad at the top? If it's at the very top, it's probably a paid ad from AdSense.
And right after that, it's also.
Anyway. So I will say that I think this kind of thing, that at the time, fighting those things, it's about the bot seeing what a user would see, and understand that to be the truth, right? So it's an example of having people change the CSS of the page to make text white on a white background, which means a human doesn't see the text, but a computer knows that text was rendered at that point, right? And these are all tricks that went back and forth for ages, and there's
That's
still
one of the ones
always
that
being fight.
cracked.
They're always being fighting over. But however, then Chrome comes out, right? And if Chrome renders and the bot is using Chrome to render, then they can say, okay, this is definitely what's inside the viewport. This is definitely what's visible. And they can make suppositions about that. And that also then comes from things like Canvas, right? So if the browser has a Canvas API, it knows that this text is rendered at this position on the screen and knows that the user should see this. So it doesn't have to do OCR as such, but it needs to know that the text is visible to the user. But this now requires changes to the Google bot or other search engine bots, which is a lot harder to do than change it on your side of things, right? So there's going to be a while before SEO is up there. But if you need to sort out SEO and you want to use Dart, then I think that from a community aspect, we recommend Jasper, because it means that you can just sort of get on and essentially you're modifying the DOM tree. That's what the bot will use at the moment to see what's visible to the user, and you'll understand SEO from that perspective. When it comes to obviously you're not using Flutter, then you're using something else. If you want to continue using Flutter, then that's why we say maybe you have a login or button or to use a web app, and then that web app is Flutter, right? So there's a separation between website and web app, which is normal for most use cases anyway. So that's what I'm saying.
Compiles to a JavaScript web app. Don't treat it any differently than any other JavaScript web app. That's how do you handle it? Well, you handle it the same way you handle any other JavaScript web app.
All right, then.
All right,
folks. I need to follow John.
Me too.
That's the last question in the queue. Do we have a Randall? Is Randall around?
He's AFK right now, but I think he'll be back.
Here he's back.
Here he is.
He's back.
Yep.
And
you say his name 3 times.
Yeah, you invoked my name 3 times. I also wanted to say, just to add to the Jasper comment that you just made, that Jasper also, again, supports server-side rendering, which means that you're going to end up with server-side pages that are all like href equals this and so on. So that's exactly what the crawlers want to see. So good stuff.
Before you disappear, Craig, I know you probably need to dash from me, but before you disappear, let me just bring this up on the stream here. This is what we're talking about scrolling, right? So if you've got so each one of these blocks inside the scroll so we've got a main scrolling portion. Each one of these blocks inside is also a scrolling list, as you can see here.
Yep.
But when you reach the extent of an internal scrolling list, it will scroll the outside.
Yep.
And that's the kind of behavior that a lot of people want. That you can have something scrolling within, and still have it scroll outside.
Oh, and this is the special widget that you're
Yeah,
talking about.
Yeah, and it's super simple. It literally is a wrapper widget that goes around. I put the link in the.
It's 30 lines.
Chat.
It's 30
So
lines.
30
It's not even
lines.
it's not even big.
So, I mean, please file an issue with
file an issue, right?
those-
Exactly.
Yeah, the gist of the implementation and a GIF of that UI. I can't comment. I lack the expertise. to comment
I
on
know
that.
that's what it's showing. That's it. Right.
Yeah, the scrolling czars within the framework who understand all the mechanics will be able to say something insightful.
Indeed.
How many of those are there other than the one I know about?
baby,
No, she's still the
scroll.
primary scrolling czar.
Okay,
Others
right,
know it,
right.
but I think she spends most time working on it.
With both
All right,
directions.
Thanks for
She's
coming
the
on, Craig.
2D
Craig.
scrolling are. Yeah.
See you, Craig. Thanks.
She works orthogonally. She works orthogonally.
I have to run also. So,
All right.
sorry.
Good, Danielle.
Good night, Danielle.
Thanks.
Bye.
Scott.
Sorry, I cut her off in the
Got
middle
that.
of thanks. That was my fault.
Any more
Say it again.
questions?
There you go.
Did we do the last
Oh,
question?
I'm just hanging out.
Oh, it's still there. That needs
All
to be unstarred. That's already gone. All right.
Wait. No,
So,
that was.
I made a copy of it.
Loading.
I made a copy of it. Don't worry.
Yeah, and it's
Uh-huh.
it was the semicircle list.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Which
I'm gonna try to do some coding.
John posted a package about that.
Yeah.
If
So,
you haven't seen
read
it,
back
Simon,
in the
check
comments.
backstage chat.
Just read back in the comments. It's in there.
All right.
All right.
But do we want to code that?
Thanks,
All right.
Scott.
See you later.
See you next week, Scott, probably.
I'm going to go to
Yeah,
speakers.
Simon.
I'm
Simon,
going to go to
live
speakers
coding.
here for a second. Hang on.
Oh, okay. Oh, you don't mean like speakers for a conference. You mean speakers for your room. Except now you probably can't hear me.
Right.
Are
Testing,
you
testing.
not able to hear me? I can't.
Can you hear
hear
me?
me? Can you?
I can hear you.
I hear
Yes.
you. I
Yes.
hear you.
We hear each other. This is this is
You
promising.
hear me.
Yes. Right. So
I made a joke about speakers, and you didn't respond to my joke about speakers.
Because
Which is
I
if
was-
you need
I was
speakers.
changing
Are
my
you talking about
speakers.
for a
I was-
conference? Are you doing a talk about a conference, or do you mean
Yes,
in your
shush,
room? Those
Shush.
speakers.
shush.
I know.
Right.
All right.
That
What do you want,
joke
what do you want
plenty,
from
right,
me here?
yeah.
What
Um,
do you want me to
so-
do here?
So
What's my role? I want a role. Give me a role.
you want to be on a roll? You need
Yeah.
butter for that.
I know. I got
You need a bun. You need butter. Right. What do we want to do? So I was thinking it might be nice to
Yeah.
show people how you do like maybe something like that, like a custom scrollable list, right? Like there's ways of doing that kind of stuff, which is interesting.
maybe a circular scrollable.
Yeah, or something like that, like how you do that kind of cool stuff, like.
I remember when we struggled for an hour with you just being able to flip a card over. So
I'm confident this can be done.
for this being done in an hour.
I'm confident that can be done because I'm going to show people. like,
Okay.
how you do
Okay.
this.
Well, then that's a good challenge. I will take
So,
you up
challenge
on the
accepted.
by saying I don't think you're going to get it done in an hour. But go ahead.
We'll see.
Give it
We'll see.
a run. Give it a run. Let's do
All right.
it. Do it.
You're welcome. So let's find that. What was it? Let's find that question. Where was it? It was blah, blah, blah. I have the time code.
Yeah, sorry that I unstarted. I thought we were done talking about it, so I didn't do that. There we go.
Is that the one? No, that's not the one.
No.
There it is. Found the one.
Circular scrollable list.
Well, would it be possible to create a circular scrolling list of items in a circle and widgets? That's to start with.
So we
So-
can do it like a carousel, but text items rather than pictures.
I mean, it doesn't. Maybe you could do icons. It doesn't really make that much difference, to be fair.
Yeah.
So let me get a IDE open with some code. Is anyone want to see anything else? Like, Just to be clear, like
let me open it. Yeah, let me open it back up for the chat again, because again, questions about what you're live coding are clearly still welcome.
Yes.
So we're not answering general questions anymore. We're only answering questions that are about what Simon happens to be showing on his screen in a few moments.
Indeed.
This is his IDE, which is IntelliJ, right? IntelliJ,
Yeah.
and some emulator. Do you use the Android emulator primarily?
Actually, I don't use them yet. I use the real device, but with a screen copy. Oh, no.
Oh, real device. Okay, that's
Yeah, because that way, because I find interacting, especially with scrolling on a real device, is a lot easier.
right. Okay, cool.
Okay, let's see. That is the wrong project. Right project. Let's get this going.
So here's an interesting question already. A full circle or a half showing circle?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it was probably meant like a half circle, right? Like, but I guess
like just whizzing across the front, and then there's hidden items in the back that you don't get to until you scroll around enough. That could
we can. I think we'll work on what that means. So for the moment, let's get rid of the questions. Get my placement.
Yeah. Right. Keep enough space on the screen there.
There we go. That'll do. So we won't need wire shopping. Get everyone get some space. Is that legible to everyone? If it's not, squint harder. And it's that's enough.
It looks good to me. It looks you've got your 80 columns. That's really the important part, right? So
yeah, thereabouts. Yeah, I'll get rid of the project screen to make some more space as we need to. So let's do a new Humpday file here. Humpday, it's 2024, and the date is
07/7/24.
All right, we're just going to start from scratch. It's always nice to start from scratch because then you know exactly what you're going to get, right? So we'll say
or it takes longer to do because then you have to start from scratch.
This is all that.
I'm still amazed at your ability to just randomly cut a chunk of text out and put it somewhere else, and it doesn't all like have mismatched parentheses. I don't know how you do that.
Practice, I guess. So we'll create.
That's it. I am just clearly less skilled at this. This is clearly.
There's no magical thing that I can tell you that other than I just do it.
Okay.
Let's see what happens, I guess. All right.
I'm always amazed at that. Really, it's always impressive when you do that. That you cut a whole chunk of text out and then you put it somewhere else and it just works. It's just like, what? That never worked for me. I think it's because you're really careful to only cut balanced parentheses.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I guess so. I mean, the other thing you can do is use code folding to your advantage, right? So fold the section and then copy it folded.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That can also be helpful.
Code folding on VSC has some weirdnesses about what you're actually selecting when you select the folded code, and I think IntelliJ actually does this better because I've seen the way you use code folding, and it's different than what I seem to be able to do with VSC. So,
well,
that's what I get for using a free software, right?
How dare you use free software? I know.
Thinking? How dare I use free software, even though that's paid my bills for 40 years. So,
exactly. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Okay. So first things first. We need to go through. We need to make what would be a scrollable list. So let's call this. Let's just call this circular list. Let's call it that. That sounds like an interesting idea, right?
Yeah.
Good place to start. So for those that don't know, a list view under the hood extends box scroll view. Box scroll view extends scroll view, and there's this whole hierarchy of things. But what it actually ends up doing is very much. I'll see if I can find it for you. There's some callbacks. So this top level, I think, has a callback on the delegates used. if I can find, let me just skip past the constructor. Sorry, here we go. So it basically does this: build child layout, and it returns back one of the particular things here, like a sliver list, a sliver prototype list, a sliver variant list. And this is based on your parameters to a sliver to a list view. It's going to use a sliver list. Okay, great, but then where does build child layout get called from? This is what's being called from. I'd go back from the parent class box scroll view. So if you look in here, when it tries to build the slivers, it calls build child layout, and then that does some padding and some other things around it, but then it just returns a list of slivers, what that might be. So again, where does build slivers get called from? We're going to chase this back. I'm chasing this back on purpose so you understand the practical nature of how this goes, where this comes from. And here you have build viewport, right? Build viewport ends up calling, the build method ends up calling build slivers. This gets the internal content. Then we've got a scrollable, and inside a scrollable, it does build viewport. And a viewport gets given those slivers. So this is the way it works. A scrollable is the bit that manages the scrolling, just the scrolling. The viewport is the bit that manages the rendering, the drawing of that scroll list, right? And then the contents of that viewport is decided to be slivers because that's the way they want to render it. However, scrolling has no direct one-to-one relationship with slivers, right? They're two separate things, okay? So what we're going to say here is if we go back to our example, we can now say we want a scrollable, and the build viewport. Go on.
So what you're saying though is that there's like two parts to it. One is like you call something to get a bunch of slivers, then you call something else to say lay this out on a viewport.
Yeah. So here is what this is the easiest way for me to show you how scrolling works. And when you see this, you'll be like, "Oh, it's that easy," and then you'll be like, "Yeah, it's that easy."
Yeah, cool.
So that's my hope, at least. So we're going to do a vertical scroll. So we need to tell it that it's going to be axis direction down. This is the way it goes. The direction it goes in. There's a few other things that we can have, like normally you can over scroll to do with the way that scrolling works, like physics and so on. So we could add bouncing scroll physics and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. This should work with the primary controller. I think it gets it automatically, but I'm just going to do this. I forget. It's been a while. What did we actually just see in there? Was that getting the primary scroll controller? Maybe of. Okay, so it's optional. Maybe of. All right, we can do that. I don't mind. Make my life easier. Maybe of. Right, there you go. For those that don't know, primary scroll controller, each route pushed on the route stack gets a scroll controller automatically because a lot of top-level mobile apps have scrolling. So you want at least one scroll controller for every screen that you push. So that's the primary scroll controller. And you can get that from this inherited widget called primary scroll controller. That's done for you automatically by list view, as you see here, and other scrolling widgets. All right. So then what we want to say, build viewport.
Is that defined up in Material app, or is it further down?
Sorry. It's further on. No. It's below material. It's let me explain. So you have your material app. Inside your material app taps builder. It renders a navigator, right?
Yeah.
And that is an overlay, and then that pushes the routes inside of the overlay, and each one of the routes inside the overlay contains a primary scroll controller.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean,
so if you look at, I think it's modal route. It might be page route. I forget. It's been a while.
There's a lot of magic happening in Material app that a lot of people aren't aware of. So I was just trying to make it clear to anybody listening at home that there's some layers here. So
there's an animation controllers. I believe I'm not even going to go looking. You go look at the route stuff. You'll find a scroll controller where it's set the primary scroll. Anyway, right. Yeah. Now what we're going to do here is have a column. And inside our column, we're going to have. Everyone paying attention? Are we all sitting down comfortably? Right. And then we'll have a aspect ratio. Let's go with a. I don't remember my aspect. It's 1.2 or something. I think. And then we'll have a placeholder And inside the center of that, let's hold on, we'll put a text.
You'll have an I.
Item.
$I.
Right. So.
Yep.
So does everyone have we got that on our list on our screen here? So we have a scrollable. Inside that scrollable, it builds a viewport. That viewport is going to be a stack. That stack is going to have one position item, which is going to be a column, which is 50 items, all in a column. Stretch, and then the top position of that is going to be based on
which
pixel.
Should be the default. That should be the default.
Right. So if I start this, he says, "Oh yeah, I did not put our circular list in my screen. That would be helpful." Material.
There you go.
Okay.
Const.
And we broke something.
Why'd you use material instead of material app?
No, I did use material app further up. This just gives it a surface, right? Now this actually broke for a reason, and I'll actually get there in a second. But what's happening right now is a classic that we can fix. Let me just wrap this in a layout builder and explain why it happens. Just bear with me.
It's not big enough. Stacked isn't.
Nope, not that.
Okay.
I should fix it, hopefully. The one time I want it to work, it's not going to work, of course. So look.
No.
Good debugging. Let's do some debugging. Where's my debugger? There it is.
Oh, debugging,
hey. Lay down, yeah. Let's clear that and hot restart and see what we get.
Still angry.
Box and training forces infinite width. That it does. Why
angry?
Why is this not? This should not be a problem.
Size box expand. Just insert that somewhere.
No. Any better?
Oh, okay. Well, that was. I don't think it's going to do it yet. I think it's got the infinite width for the.
I don't know where this infinite width has been coming from, and I can go hunt it down, but I can't be bothered, to be honest.
I tell you, size box expand. Just insert it somewhere. It always seems to work for me.
Aspect ratio.
Oh.
Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to say left 0, right 0. That should give me the width that I want. Come on.
Oh yeah. I get it.
But I would have thought that the expand does that automatically, but maybe I'm forgetting myself. There you go.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I see boxes.
Well, anyway, all right. So didn't need that. Good. So now what we've got is a series of boxes. Let's make this put this right. 0.8.
Right.
No.
Hi, Fred.
Let's make that a bit. There we go. Right. So, and let's just put our color. Gray, sure, with gray. Oops. So, out there. Right. So we've now got this. Now what I'm going to do, can you see the circle on the screen there?
Yeah.
Right. If I try and drag, it's not doing anything, right? Yes.
Okay.
Which is what's supposed to be, because we haven't told it to do anything when it drags. So we get this viewport offset that gives us a position. What we need to do is pay attention to the position itself. So when the position changes, we need to change our top position. So what we're going to do is wrap our position widget in an animated builder. And the animation, which is just the listener, what it listens to, is position.
Because that's going to give you your number from 0 to whatever.
Yep. And then the widget that we actually want to rebuild is just the position widget. So we're going to hand this over as the child. And then the position widget stays inside our builder. So we're only rebuilding the position widget when it changes. That's what that's all about. Right? That's how you do that. Let's restart. It didn't crash. It's a good sign. Now, when I drag, oh, it still doesn't work. Whoops. Why you do this to me? It's shaming me. It's shaming me. Why you no work?
We're already halfway through the hour.
Right, what's going on? Come on. No, that's correct. Oh, you know why? I know why. I'm an idiot. That's why. Okay, so the reason why it's not scrolling is we need to tell. So position has apply a couple of different functions on it. You need to tell it how big the viewport is. There's a big constraint stop.
Right.
And we need to tell it what the minimum extent is, what's going to be 0, and our maximum extent of our content that we can scroll. I'm putting it into the build. This is not a good idea, like direct like this, but this is working right now as an example, and then we'll show you how to do this properly. So in this case, we want to say it's just 10 screen heights. But we'll come back to this in a minute. So now if I scroll, there we go. Now it scrolls.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Now it's scrolling backwards. So when I scroll up, it goes down. That's because this goes into negative, right? So we actually, when we go up, we go negative. When we go down, it goes positive. And it has the bounce effect. See that? Because that's done by the physics. That controls the update. Right. So now I have a list of items that you can scroll through, right? And essentially that is the underlying mechanism that you see here, right? That is, we've got scrollable, it has a viewport, and that viewport is built out of a layout builder in this case. So we get the height, and then we're controlling the position of a widget, which is a column, up and down vertically because of the scroll, right? Listenable builder doesn't exist, yeah. Value listenable builder does exist as a widget, by the way, but then that gets a value, and we're not. And I don't believe viewport offset is a value; it's a change notify. It's not. It doesn't actually directly have a value. So, anyway. Okay. So now we've got a list. Now the question here is, how do we want to render this? Now, if we had, let's change this list of things. Let's get rid of our let's put aspect ratio of 1, right? And then let's have these. In fact, let's just fix the size just for a minute. So we'll have what dimension? 80. We'll play around with this. Okay, cool. And then we don't want to have stretch. So now we've got a bunch of boxes. Great, not a big deal. Instead of having a column, instead of having a stack, what we can do is render these with what's called a widget just escaped my mind. Funny. Come on. Flow. Sorry, give me a second there. A flow widget. If you've never used the flow widget, now you're about to learn how you use the flow widget.
Yeah.
So
flow widget. Oh,
so
I have actually used a flow widget because it wraps things in a space.
Indeed. Right. So we're going to take out all these lovely things.
It's really handy for what do they call those little like buttons? Not really buttons. What do they call them? The little toggle things that are little check boxes. Ooh, I know the name, but somehow it's not in my head.
You're going to have to give me one that to go on.
I don't know. I could Google for it, I guess. Chips. Good for chips.
No. That's wrap. You're thinking about wrap. Wrap is different.
Oh, that's not flow. That's not flow. Okay. Well, flow is something else.
So what we're going to do?
The waitress on One Day at a Time.
So now what we're going to do? We're going to get rid of our. I'm going to get rid of that as well.
What is flow good for? I have to go look this up.
And I'm going to get rid of our layout builder. Okay. So we're coming down to a scrollable with an animated builder, and when that position changes, the flow is going to rebuild. Now we can actually go one step further than this, but we'll get there in a second. So first of all, we need a flow delegate. So we're going to have a what we call a scroll. I don't know, circular scroll delegate, circular scroll delegate, extends flow delegate, and our flow delegate has two options: paint and should it rebuild. So I'll come back to that in a second. So viewport offset is the thing that we actually want to pass in as the parameter. So we'll have that in here. Oops. What did I do? So what this means is, let me just finish this off here. Hang on. So covariant on these things should be the parent delegates. You'll get a complaint about it not matching because it's covariant. But anyway, that's what you need to do. You need to duplicate the class. And the idea is any input parameters to your class, this is all delegates like paint delegates. If they change, then you need to tell it needs to repaint or rebuild in some way. And that's what that's about. Now, we also want our delegate to repaint. So let me explain what Flow does. Flow, it just repaints widgets. It doesn't rebuild them. It doesn't lay them out. They just get repainted at different positions on the screen. This is all we're trying to do with the scrolling, right? Like a circular scroll thing, right? For example. So if we do this, what's really interesting about this is here's our 50 boxes that are all square. Let's make this, I don't know, well, 50 is fine for now. We can always change it. Now, this will rebuild whenever that changes. And at the moment, each of the children, we need to get our size. I think context got size, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So size. And then, so our viewport is going to be size dot height. And it's up to us to just explain to it what our size is. So we'll do the same thing we have right now, just to kind of get us going. And then we need to then paint each one of our children. So in here, we actually get paint child, and we get our index count. I don't know if we actually get a count of children somewhere. Yeah, child count. There we go. So we say 4. We'll do it again in I, 0, I is less than I plus plus. And we're just going to go paint each one. And what this is going to ask for is the position at which this child needs to be painted. We use it with a transform. So we'll say, well, we're going to put everything at a particular position right now. So we should have translation. Yeah, X. We'll put them X, Y, Z, and what we want to do this right. Why did 0 go there? Okay, so we can say Y is going to be, we're just going to do this as a test. So we already know it's going to be 80 high. And hard is a number now for us to test with, but obviously you wouldn't do this, right? Well, I'll explain how you do it in a minute. So, all right, so now if I restart, it breaks. Let's see.
Yeah, where'd they all go? They all went off screen.
What went wrong?
They all went off screen.
Restart.
Ooh.
Unexpected call to replace gesture recognizers.
Ooh.
Well, that's interesting.
That's nothing to what you're doing.
It's applying content dimension during paint, and it's having a problem with that. which is annoying. We have get size in here, I think. Hang on. Get size. Okay, constraints for child. We'll try and get size. If it doesn't work, then we'll schedule it. Yeah, I don't like that, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's see what happens.
That's just over.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no. Do you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. Basically, it's having a problem with the fact that we're trying to change the viewport size, which is called set state during paint. So what? There's a quick out that we can get on this. And we'll just schedule the fact that we want to change the height for later. There you go. And then and then the get the size of the child, get constraints. The child.
We still have a couple of dozen people watching you, so apparently this is interesting to somebody.
Well, feel free to ask questions if anyone's interested. You know.
Yeah. I'm watching for questions. Really, nothing happened yet. So closest was Verde saying listenable builder, LOL. We've had unrelated questions, which I pushed out to next week, but yeah.
Cool. So there we go. So right now we have what we've done is we've got a scrollable animated builder with a flow. Each one has square boxes inside, and the way that they get rendered on the screen, it gets the constraints. I don't know why we're doing that, but that was my fault. Should have seen this. Here we're going to get the tight constraints.
So I think if you covered a little better about the flow and really explaining what you're doing with that, that might be helpful.
Yeah, you'll see that in action in a second. So the idea here with flow is the idea is that we're actually trying to place widgets in paint, right? So if I scroll, if I scroll, it's not doing anything apparently. That's because it's rebuilding the delegate, not doing anything. So actually, the way we want to deal with this, which I was going to show you, can we bother with this? Yeah, let's do this. So we're going to get rid of our animated builder. Flow will automatically repaint its content automatically for you, and the way it does that is with a listenable, and it needs a listenable passed over as the repaint, and so we can just happily pass it the viewport offset. This means it will automatically repaint the widgets when the viewport offset changes. So now if I scroll, it should not move apparently. Oh yeah, because I didn't apply it. So here, Y, where's my Y? Y is going to be, let's get this right, it's going to be I times 80. Come on. I times 80 minus position.pixels. Try that again, and yay, we get scrolling and we get bouncing. Yay. So what we've done here is we're now painting. So what happens when I scroll, all we're doing is painting the children at different positions on the screen. What we have not done at all right now is we're not rebuilding and we're not relaying out or doing anything like that. It literally just moves them on the screen, which is great for maybe this type of effect where we want to do scrolling, right?
Very cool.
All right, so coming back to this, what we can now do, we want to why it doesn't move. I think maybe he just knows I fixed this. Maybe a bit of a lag. So anyway, right. So let's now place something else on the screen here. I'm going to do items, I guess. Maybe let's make a darker shade. And now what we want to do is place them at different positions. So, okay, we've got the scroll. Let's make this what? 25. We reduce the number of items. Yeah, and what we don't have is we go off the end right now, and this is because we're going to fix the size in here at 80. So let's bring that as a parameter. I feel it's better as a parameter, right? So we'll say double size. Again, whatever type of layout thing that you want to do. There's a bunch of ways to do this. You don't have to fix the size. But you start wandering in the tutorial trying to do layout then, and then that means you probably want to think about actually bring that over. If you're going to start doing that, then you probably go in custom render objects and a whole different thing. All right, let's do that actually. Size, bomb. So now we pass size in as a parameter. It's the child size rather than the context size. So we're going to get that right. So the viewport size is the context size, and the max scroll is going to be the context child count multiplied, or the size dot height in this case multiplied by the number of children that we have, and this way we can never go out of bounds like we're doing right now. We're scrolling off the bottom because we just hard coded a number, and then our size dot height is also the number that we want to put here. All right, so now we've parameterized everything. Now when I scroll, that's the top, and we scroll down, and that's the bottom. Of course, it's the bottom because it was saying that that's the maximum extent, which it is. So it's actually this minus context.size.height, right? Now,
yeah.
now if I hot restart and I scroll, there you go. Now we got a bottom, and we got a top. Now what's really cool is we can decide where to position these, right? So, for example, if we want to say size.width divided by 2 minus size.width minus size.width divided by 2. This will give us the center position for the horizontally, right?
Wow.
And then and then the Y position. Well, interesting enough, we could do something like add a matrix for the scale, right? So have something like so a normal scale is 1, right? Scale value, sorry. Right, normal scale would be 1, right? 100% for each one of the things. Interestingly, I've messed it up somehow. Multiply. Anyway, that's one. Yeah, sorry. So what we could do is the further the scroll offset is to what do we want? The further this item would be to the center of the viewport, the larger it is, right? And you could do some like nice kind of effects there. Or what we could do is also say, you talk about circular, we just take pi and sine and cosine, and we can take the position and say, oh, it's now rounded, and we can make it move around in the circle, right? There's a bunch of things we can do like that. So that's kind of where we're going to with this. So I think maybe we'll play around with scale in a minute, but first of all, let me just show you scale of, let's say, 2 in the X and Y, and there you go. You can see now you can scale in X and Y. Positioning Y to the side, there's ways you can do with that, like add the position to the scale beforehand. It's about how you add your matrices together. Anyway, let's take it back, and we want to do a circular position, right? What we're talking about. Hi, you're welcome.
Yeah,
right.
Circular somehow. All right.
So do we want to do? I guess do we want to do circular? Do we want to change this to a horizontal? I kind of thought maybe we want to change this to a horizontal thing.
Yeah, if it's like a carousel, it typically is horizontal.
Yeah. We can get the screen real estate, I think, for that. Yeah, we can do that. So let's change this to horizontal, and our position is we'll just invert these. And width and height obviously now change. They're square, so it's not really a big problem, but we should change them. And same goes for this. It's the width of the children, multiply the number of children, minus the width of the viewport, right? All right, so now we've flipped things around. Hopefully, there we go.
It worked.
And we're across the screen. Great. Now, how do we carousel them, right? So we've given it some sort of default like starting positions of where they should be, but we actually want to work out the X position based on maybe how much in a circle they are. Does that make sense? I don't know. Let's try. All right. So we want to take the I don't know. Let's do this X. We have that. Yeah. Let's just do math. Math.sign. Oops. I prefer to alias math, but you can do whatever you want. You can import however you like. And then what we'll have, let's work out the center. Let's work out the center position of so center Y. There's some other ways you can do centering. Let's do fine for now. And let's just assume this for now. And we're going to say center X, center Y. So everything's going to appear in the center. Whoop-de-doo. Now what we want to do is alter our X and where's that? Is it 2, 3? We'll come back to that in a second. I don't want to skip ahead. All right, so I times 20 over the context width. Sounds about right. It's been a while. So scroll. No, because that's not taken into account our offset. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? Actually, hey mate, if we do context dot, nope, what I'm doing size. Ooh, brutal. We actually need a fractional now. So we need to know how much this is of the width.
Carousels would seem like they're simple.
Oh, yeah. Seemed like a good idea.
But they are.
Let's do.
It's kind of like you would want to calculate it as if it was flat and then wrap it from there rather than trying to do that all in one step.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that, and then hang on, let me just hang on.
I'm thinking you want it in 2 steps because you want to do basically a
curve
transformation.
I
think you could do it all in one.
Well, that's interesting.
That's just weird. Yeah, what the hell are they doing?
I know, right? It's cool, right?
You've made a random scroller.
I know, it's cool. It actually gets faster because I've done the fraction the wrong way. It actually gets faster to infinity the wrong way around.
You've made a scroller that you can't actually scroll to the item you want, just some random thing.
So no, this is that. No, so you got the back. No, this is actually a circle. So the ones going one way are actually at the back of the circle, and the ones at the front are going forward. Right? So they are actually going around. I don't know why they're paired up. I think just got too many for the unit I'm doing here.
Oh, that's funny.
So there you go. That should, now they're equally spaced. Should be. And now what we could do is tilt it based on the
hide
time.
hide the ones with the negative Z. But you don't have a negative Z yet. It's Z.
Yeah, no, we could do that. We could say if X is less than 0. Continue. Let's find out. I think. Let's find out. Yes, we'll get that. Right. No, that's the wrong offset because we're 90 degrees phase changed. So, oh, you bastard thing. I just realized I'm not dealing with pi, and that's why this is not doing what I wanted to do. It's been too long since I've done this.
We're right at the top of the hour.
No, this needs to work. I feel like I want to go look at my code because I've done this before.
Can you finish it? Can you finish it in 30 seconds?
Can I finish it by go look at my code that I've already done that does this? Yes, I probably could.
If you cheat.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat.
All right. All right. Well, that was a valiant attempt. I just want to say
I can't remember what I did before, and I can't be bothered.
You did good.
If I can find it, that is.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. Oh, don't do that.
That was pretty cool. Actually, that was pretty cool. You were trying to do that.
Damn it! Why just come up in the search?
Carousel.
Search has found me.
That's a code challenge.
Damn it! All right, what up? Let me. It's going to annoy the hell out of me now, isn't it?
But I have to go back to work for a very large pinball company. They will want me to complete some more stuff today. Everyone, what happened? What happened?
Man.
It's randomly placed.
I don't know what I've done there. That's funny. What am I doing? I'm not thinking at all right now.
Are they along like a cosine curve or something? Is that why they're up and down a lot?
I've totally screwed this. I can't think of the math right now. I've done this like a gajillion times. This is so annoying me.
It's okay, Simon. You don't have to be.
No, it's not. This is gonna bug me.
You just have to answer more questions than the rest of us every week. That's fine. As long as you're doing that, you're welcome back. Yes.
Why? I literally feel like this makes me feel dumb. It's not good. A minute. Radius time. Sign over.
You're gonna solve it. You're gonna solve it 20 minutes from now. You're gonna post the gist to the.
I know, right? Like that's what's gonna annoy me though. So let's plot this in a. Let's plot this in.
A working gist, a gist that doesn't work, a gist that's not quite complete yet.
No. How dare you? That's evil.
You can't do that. You can't publish things that aren't complete yet.
No, definitely not.
I push whip commits all the time to my central repo.
And we want to know what fraction that is of, say, 360. So we want to say, anyway, go on, give me
it's pi over 4, pi over 2. Pi over 2 is 180. 2 pi is 360.
Yeah, hang on. I'll get there in a second. Hang on. We're just going to plot these first of all.
Which is why pi shouldn't have been a constant. It should have been 2 pi was the constant we all learned. I forget where that was argued. Tau, I think they call it, where they argued that really pi isn't really.
There we go. Okay.
2 pi real number.
Right. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
They're in a circle.
Oh, look at that. It's roundish. It's rounded.
Well, it's not going to be round because I'm using the width and the height, right? So I could just do.
Yeah.
We could just do something like context dot size dot large shortest. Say I don't know. Radius is that over 2, and then that over here. Right. There you go. Right. If you want it to be a circle.
Yeah.
Now we don't take into account the we need to take off it's actually minus content size dot short longest side divided by 2, right? Because then we account for the size of the boxes. There we go. So now the edge of the boxes will reach the edge of the screen.
And divide the height by 2 so that it's an oval.
Well, no, I wasn't doing that on purpose, right? I can make it into the proper oval if I wanted to. Let me just wrap this in a safe area. There we go. So there's a lot of oval. If we want to make this an oval, which I think is actually kind of nicer, right? Like we can have a radius on each one of the axes. So RX, RY. And then do width, height. There you go. And that's an oval that always stays inside the viewport, right?
Oh, that's nice.
Now we need to we have our phase offset, right? Our phase, which we add to that. And now what's going to happen is when I scroll, they go around like a carousel. Look at that. Wow, it's amazing. Look at that. Way. Now, the deal here is what we're just talking about, rendering only half.
Hide the ones with the negative Z now.
Yeah, so if we say it's less than 0. I'm probably going to get that wrong, but we'll fill it out in a second. Hang on.
Continue if you can spell it.
Yeah, because it's
yeah, it's X is less than 0. It's Y less than 0. Yeah, there we go. Oh, look. Oh my God. It's nearly there. That's nearly there. Wow. Ship it.
Let's do one thing here. Let's take the placeholder and just change this with a colored box. And then we're going to have color be, let's do, what is it, material colors? Material color dot primaries? I forget what it is.
Accents. Accents is a good one.
No, primaries, that's one. Dot length.
Colors dot accents. Colors dot accents is nicer. It's prettier.
Is it? All right, let's use that then.
Yep. Because that's like the pretty colors.
Yay, look, multiple colors.
Yay, pretty colors. All right. Ship it. They don't paint in the right order yet. They don't paint front to back. They don't paint back to front. They paint left or right.
Oh, I see what you mean on the right hand side. Yeah. Well, this is more about, to be honest, it's more about just how, it's not about that. It's more about how we decide to, it's the order in which we paint them here. So
could you control the paint order somewhere?
Yeah. It's because we just index over them, right? But we don't.
Oh, right. So you can index over the ones that are visible.
You want to index from a certain position out, right? In both directions. Yeah. Right. And we can do that.
No,
but I can't
back to front.
Yeah. So let's comment that out and that. There you go.
Wow, pretty. So I told you accents is cool. You got to remember that one. That's the colors.accents.
Oh look, it bounces. It bounces when it gets to the end, of course.
Oh, nice.
It's not infinite, right?
Well, whoever asked for this, I hope you got what you wanted from this show.
This probably did not get what they wanted, but at least they had some fun, right? Should make it full screen
for you. Publish that.
There you go.
Publish that. Yeah.
There you go. Whee! And it bounces. Look.
Yep.
Right. Ship it.
Yep.
Ship it.
Yep. Ship it. Ship it.
Well.
Post it.
Well, no, yes, but we don't need to.
Yep.
Post it in those carousel. Yeah, that's one way. Yep. I mean, like, obviously, we can do like whatever we want, right? Let me grab this suggest and then I'll post it. Hang on.
Great.
Hope everyone found that enlightening and interesting and informative or whatever.
And I can go back to work and see you all next week. And be seeing you online if you're on the Discord or the Stack Overflow or the Reddit or the Slacks. Multiple Slacks.
I may have to post
Discords.
I may have to post a 3-dimensional version of that circular list, but this will do for now.
Okay. Yeah.
This is circular list. Oh, come on.
So this was a comment here.
Oh, were there any questions or things? Oh, George. What does George want?
Off screen, expand the size, show a third on the screen. As the user scrolls down, when they tap on an item, a larger circular list appears. Ooh, that would take more work than we had an hour for.
Yeah, I don't think we made go an hour, did we? So, not bad going. I think we did pretty well.
Yeah, it was pretty close to an hour because we ran over a little bit of the first half of the show. So it's pretty close to an hour. Interstellar carousel. Love
it. Right. Circular list. Something like that. Humpday Q&A. Got a chat. Create magical public gist. Go. There you go. And it's going into the chat right now.
All right.
Go grab the code where you can. Thank you everyone for joining us. It was great having you on the show, Randall, and everyone else today. It was a nice surprise from Craig.
It was great.
For those the panel, there's the link.
Then we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. 166 hours from now.
Okay. All right. Ciao, everyone. Have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz. All right. Bye. Cheers.